Hey, I'm live. Hopefully, hopefully, this is my first time going live to Instagram as well. So, if you're joining me from Instagram, welcome to my live. I feel like I'm a little bit delayed. I don't know if that's the Instagram or not, but we are going to get through it. This is my first live just about down payment assistance. So, if you are here for that, you're in the right place. So if you're considering buying your first house with down payment assistance, then you're in the right place. So I am not going to waste any time. Thank you guys for joining me. If you look in the chat, and I'm not sure if you can see this on Instagram or not. Hey, Jamaican Black Queen. How are you? She says, hey, Miss Shay Shay. I know. See, I was Miss Shasha. I was leaving Club Shay Shay for him. I was Club Shasha. But hi, everyone. So at the top of the chat, I have some starred items. So one is check your city and state for down payment assistance program. So while you're on this live, if you can navigate both, I want you to go to this site and put in your city and put in your state and tell me what's like the maximum you can get. It'll either be a dollar amount or it'll be a percentage of the purchase price. But either way, I want you to put your state. So just help people in the chat. Go to the link. I want you to put in your city and put in your state and then see what comes up for your area. So that's a little bit of homework we got to for you to do is live. So go ahead and try to do that now and put in, like, put California, $100,000, put Oklahoma, $15,000. So if y'all can help me and do that, that would be very, very helpful. So if you're here for the first time, I'm going to prioritize questions, people that got here early. I'm going to prioritize super chats, and that's an option for you. We will be here for an hour, and the topic tonight is all about down payment assistance. So I usually start with 5 minutes to 10 minutes of just some general information, but go ahead and start now doing those two things. Going to that link, the link that I have here is also, if you scroll up, it's in the chat. Go and see how much is available for you in your city or state. All right, so do that. I'm going to put that down right now, but it's at the top. So go ahead and do it. All right, so thank you guys for joining me. Natural E, hello. Laquana, hello. Ronald, hey, good to see you again. Always looking dapper in that suit. And Jamaican Black Cream, I got you. And then KK, hey, thank you guys for getting here early. Go ahead and do your homework while I'm going over these things. Okay, so last time I didn't have like the rates at the top of my head, so I made sure I had them today. So average rates today for a 30-year conventional are 6.89. FHA is 6.14. I just did a video about the 4 mortgage types. And one of the things that I said that was an advantage is that the FHA, advantage of FHA is that the interest rate is lower than conventional, but with conventional, you can get rid of your private mortgage insurance after a while. But does that lower interest rate kind of offset that mortgage insurance? You're going to have to see, when you get your loan estimate, if that makes sense. All right, so I want to share that with you. But these are a couple of things I want to go through. Every state, and you'll see that if you click that link, like I asked you to do at the beginning, when you click that link and you put in your city and you put in your state, every state has down payment assistance programs. I don't care if it's in Florida to Hawaii to New York, New Jersey, Maine. Every state has down payment assistance programs. And a lot of people overlook them because they're not as well publicized in your state. And so they'll see like the Bank of America program or the Chase program or the Wells Fargo program because they push them out a little bit more. But a lot of times your city and state programs are giving you more money than some of those national programs. And the next thing I want to say, there will be strings attached. And I'm going to give you an example of the Georgia program so you kind of understand. But the strings might be worth it. The strings might be worth it. I've done a video. Those of you that have been with me for a while, I interviewed my sister who used a Georgia, City of Atlanta program. I'm in Georgia. She used a City of Atlanta program. She only had to get $1,500 of her own money. The house at the time was probably like 170,000. It wasn't very expensive. Now, 6 years later, that home is worth about 400 or so thousand. And she got a lower interest rate. They helped you with her taxes. So it was worth it. Even though it had some strings attached, She's since refinanced out of that down payment assistance program, and her equity, imagine if she would have waited. It's kind of in a gentrifying area. If she would have waited and not taken advantage of that program, she waited until she had the down payment, waited until she had, this or that, she wouldn't have the equity that she has now. So I want to say, use the program. Don't use the program. Don't let the program use you. And we talked about that when I did another live with some other real estate agents. The program itself, it could be giving you a certain amount of funds, but you still need to be able to pay that mortgage. So, if you're not in the habit of saving money and making sure you're disciplined with your spending, that sort of thing, because one thing, when you're saving for your own down payment, you get really disciplined about saving your money and doing that sort of thing. But when you're given something, sometimes you haven't gained that discipline. So use the program. Don't let the program use you, and know how long. Okay, I don't know if I'm back or not. This is crazy. Okay. All right, I'm back, but I'm not sure if you guys can see me or hear me. If somebody can say in the chat whether you could see me or hear me, that would be very, very helpful. Okay, so Natural K says she can see me. Sorry about that. I don't know if it's the Instagram thing. I'm hoping that I stay on this time. Sorry. All right, so let me get back to what I said. You see my messy desk right now because I moved my camera a little bit. Let me move it a little bit over. It's a little bit better. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna keep on going. All right, thank you guys. Sorry for everything. All right, so how long do you have to live there? Sometimes, and I'm going to give you my example, sometimes you have to live there for a little bit longer, and this is going to aggravate me. So when I switch, I'm going to fix my camera. And so know that. And then a lot of people ask me that are doing down payment assistance, should they do contact the lender first or go to the program first? And I say sometimes be doing both at the same time. And this is why I say that, because sometimes when you go to a program, they're going to say, well, you only can use this set of lenders. So you don't want to get too involved with a lender that doesn't offer the program that you want to use. So you want to do some research about those programs first and then say, okay, do I have to use specific lenders to use this specific program? For the one in Georgia, they have a certain, they're called preferred lenders, that you only can use a set of lenders for our program. So, and then the last one is, do you have to tell the seller? And this is strategically, if you're competing against other people and, depending on your state laws, do you have to tell the seller? So that's something you want to talk to your agent about. All right, so let me go over because it's going to help you. Please hit the like button. I'm sorry that the live stream went down, but please hit the like button. I do want to say that for those of you that just signed on, we're at about 160. At the top of this feed, at the top of your chat, I've starred how you can find all the down payment assistance programs in your state. And some people have been really helpful by putting those in. Also, put your down payment assistance questions in, because as soon as I finish this kind of overview, I'm going to take all of your down payment assistance questions. So go ahead and put those in. I do have a moderator that's looking at those, and she's going to give me one as soon as I'm done. All right, so I wanted to talk about this because it's going to be helpful to you to kind of, because the way Georgia's programs work is a lot how your programs work, okay? So there are down payment assistance. You either have federal programs, state programs, city programs, lender programs, or private programs. So I'm going to give you an example of a federal program and a state program, but they also have in your state. So say they want people to move to the city. So if you're in, say, New York and you live in Brooklyn, but they're trying to incentivize people to move to like the city, Manhattan or something like that, there might be a special program just for people to move to Manhattan or Harlem or something like that. There might be separate programs that'll be city related. That's what my sister did, because they were trying to incentivize people to move back to Atlanta, the city of Atlanta. So you had to, in order to get extra money, you had to be in the city limits of Atlanta. You couldn't be in the suburbs. All right. Or you have lender programs. That's what I was talking about with Bank of America, Chase, local Synovus has a program. So there might be some local programs in your area that are either national lenders or local lenders. And then we have private programs. So those are things like kind of like NACA, right? Or the Urban League has a down payment assistance program. So you might find some private programs, but I think state and city programs are the easiest to qualify and the easiest for you to get. So this is an example of a federal program that is state administered. So most of the time, so say the federal government, Congress says, oh, we're going to give some extra money for states for housing. Then they're going to give it to the state, and then the state has to disperse those funds. So for example, Georgia Dream, our program in Georgia is called Georgia Dream. It gave, because there's no more money left for this one, $15,000. After 5 years, it was fully forgiven. So they would forgive $3,000 a year as long as that person lived there for at least 5 years. But they had to buy in certain counties, and they considered those counties that they were hardest hit by the recession. So the recession of 2008, those counties that they felt like had the most foreclosures, the most, economic damage, the federal government gave money to the state to spur home ownership in those areas. There were a set amount of funds, and all of those funds ran out. So some of you, when you guys were looking up your state, it says out of funds, out of funds. Probably those were federal programs that were given to your state, and now they're gone. So anytime you're looking at those federal programs that have been given to your state, you may want to jump on those faster because they will run out of money. They did have income limits, so they're not trying. So a lot of people, they're making $200,000 a year and like, okay, how can I get down payment assistance? Unless you're in a very expensive area, then they're going to take the average of what people make in that area, and they're going to say, okay, people making lower than that, will give them down payment assistance for the most part, okay? And it could vary a little bit for the most part. They also have asset limits. So in this one, if they're going to give you $15,000, you couldn't have had more than $20,000 cash in either a checking account or a savings account, and you couldn't have had or 20% of the purchase price, whichever one was higher. So $20,000 or 20%. So when I said there are going to be some strings attached, they're not just giving you this money. So say you save $50,000 and it's in your savings account. They're going to look at that and say, well, you could pay your own down payment. You don't need this down payment money, and you may not qualify. Keep that in mind, before you start saving a whole bunch of money and then trying to use down payment assistance. And then there's usually a credit score requirement. The one in Georgia is 640. Now down to the state program. So this state program gives you $12,500. It's funded every year, so the money's always there. But this one you do have to pay back. The other one was a grant. This one you have to pay back whenever you sell or whenever you refinance. So you can live in the house for 30 years and never pay it back. But whenever you sell that house, whenever you refinance that house, you will have to pay it back. And then you can buy anywhere in the state, where the other one, there were only certain, those hardest hit areas. And then they also still had income and asset limits. So I wanted to share that with you because your programs that are in your city and your state are going to be similar to that, where they're going to have those strings attached, right? They're not just going to give you the money. If you're making above what they feel like is the average in your state, then they're probably not going to give you that money, or you're not going to qualify. And they also had income. So of course I said income limits. If the money, let me say this, if the money was in your retirement account, so say you had $1 million in a 401k or $1 million in your IRAs or stuff like that, typically those don't count. So if you're worried that you have money like in retirement accounts, usually those are excluded from the assets that you cannot own. So I hope this was helpful as a kind of a base level of information that you need. I'm sorry that we had a break, but if you're just joining me, you can watch the replay because I kind of went over some general things. Now I'm going to take questions. So let's go ahead and pop the first one up. Trying to make sure my moderator can hear me. If you can't hear me, I'll go ahead and take the question myself. Let's see. Okay, she's not popping up a question. So go ahead and ask the questions. I'm going to pop them up. Okay, I think I answered this question for Dorothy already. She says, can you use down payment assistance even if you have money saved? The answer is maybe. The answer is maybe because it's those limits. Like the one in Georgia is you can't have, whichever one is higher, $20,000 or 20% of the purchase price of the home. If you have that in assets, usually it's cash in either a checking account or a savings account. If you have that, then you won't qualify in Georgia. Okay. Now, the more expensive your state is, the higher the cost of living is in your state, then the more lenient this amount is. Georgia is a pretty affordable state, so it's probably a little bit lower than some other states. All right. Good question, though. Very good question. All right. Let's see. I want to say something about the Hometown Hero. And these are for, I don't know if this is a state program or a private program, kind of like the other ones I said. So what I know about programs like this, so say there's a police officer, teachers, those types of programs, they may give it to you, but you have to use a specific lender. So those sometimes are strings attached, saying that in order for you to get this program, you have to use this lender. Then that is a string, right? They're not just saying use any lender and we'll give you $5,000. So just be mindful. Anytime anybody's giving you something, there's probably going to be some kind of string attached. Okay. I answered that question. KK had the same question. Good. All right. So let's see. Go ahead and put all your questions about down payment assistance. All right, this is a good one. When you buy your first home, are you still considered a first-time home buyer, if you buy another one? If most programs, and everything I'm saying is most, now that y'all have access to all the programs in your state, you can, look and research those more specifically. But most of the time, okay, they consider a first-time home buyer either one or two things. One, you have not owned a home in the last 3 years. So you could have owned a home, sold it, now you're renting, now you're buying again, and you would still qualify, okay? So as long as you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years, and they'll do a title search to see if you've owned a home in the last 3 years. And then the other one is you don't currently own a home. So it's going to be usually one of those two factors. They're trying to avoid investors taking advantage of these down payment assistance programs. If you can't live in two places, so they'll automatically assume if you're getting a second home, then you're investing or you're renting that out. And they're taking these public funds to try to help people that might need assistance, and they're giving it to investors. So they're trying as much as possible to avoid that happening. Now, in the example that I gave you, that home, the money is fully forgiven after 5 years. So after 5 years, you can do whatever you want with it. Like I had somebody that bought a move-in ready. This was in 2019. A move-in ready home for $97,000. It was a townhome, $97,000. Use the $15,000 down payment assistance. I think our mortgage might have been $680 something in 2019. I don't know what's happening. I think her mortgage might have been. Oh, sorry. I think her mortgage might have been less than $700 all in. Right. So now after 5 years, she can just, rent that place out, make money. And so that's what I mean by use the program. Don't let the program use you. And I said that at the time. I said, this is going to be a great rental property for you when you move on and buy another house. But they want to try to avoid people trying to use public money for investment purposes. Yes. Thank you so much. Okay. So let's see. I think that popped up. I think that was my moderator, her computer. Okay, now we're back. Okay. Can you use multiple down payment assistance programs? This is a great question. And this is in the real estate industry, I think called stacking. Like, can you take one program that's giving you $20,000, another program that's giving you $10,000 and use them together? The answer to this is maybe as well. In my state, you can stack different city programs. So if the housing authority is offering $20,000 and then there's something called Invest Atlanta, they're offering $25,000, you can get $45,000. But both of those programs work together because you may be moving to the city and then you're moving into one of the towns that they're really they want people to move in one particular part of the city. So if you move to Atlanta and you move to a part of the city that they want some revitalization in, then you can get both. What I've seen is that usually it's the state and city programs, or if there are multiple city programs, you can stack those. But the best thing for you to do is ask, because you're not the first person that has stacked a program, right? So you tell the program administrator, you ask, has anybody else used anything else with your program? Because they have to approve it, they have to know which programs go together, all of that. So, but when people say, can I use Wells Fargo and NACA and this and that, usually those don't go together because they're just not meant to go together, right? But usually the city programs, they communicate with one another and say, okay, hey, if somebody's moving to your area, you can get this and this, okay? So just do that research. So the answer is maybe. It's really going to depend on your state. All right, so we'll have the next question. I live in Atlanta. Can you leverage 401k for down payment? You could use, anybody can use their retirement accounts, right, to use for their down payment. Typically, because during the pandemic, there were certain, they waived some of those penalties because they felt people needed money, right? But there are penalties for taking your money out for different things. So you want to check what the penalties are for taking your money out and using it for other purposes. So you can do it. You need to check the penalties for doing so. All right. Thank you so much. What is the difference between a grant program and a regular down payment assistance program? So I don't know when you started the thing, but I kind of, I went over a grant that Georgia was offering and a regular down payment assistance program. But for the most part, grants do not have to be paid back, but other programs may have to be paid back. But in the example that I gave you, it wasn't like, oh, we're giving you $15,000. Thank you. Bye-bye. Right? It was, we're giving you $15,000. It'll be fully forgiven after 5 years. So if they were to sell or refinance that house within that 15 years, they're going to owe that money back. Now, sometimes if they've lived there for 2 years, they might, forgive $6,000 of the money, and then you only owe them $9,000. But if you, so it's not like we're giving it to you, and there's always going to be some strings attached. We're giving it to you. You have to live in there for 5 years. After 5 years, it's fully forgiven. The other program, we're giving it to you. That's the regular DPA, the one that's not the grant. We're giving it to you, but you have to, whenever you sell or refinance, you don't have to make any payments. You won't even see it's there. But whenever you sell or refinance, we want our money back. In our state, they say we take the money back so we can fund the program for other first-time home buyers. But great question. All right, any other questions? I'm going to put Marquita up. Hello, Marquita. All right, I'm fighting my moderator now. All right, so my daughter lives in Baltimore County and works for the state. Can she use down payment assistance and any Baltimore workers program at the same time? I think I kind of answered that with the other one. The answer is maybe. Your daughter, a lot of times they'll have special programs for state workers, teachers, nurses, anybody that works for the state. And usually they'll give them a little bit more money or more programs. So what your daughter should do is look at all the programs, use the link that I have, put in Baltimore County, and, get all the programs. And she should ask, do any of these programs work with other programs? So she can get the maximum amount possible. And I really think, like, she said her daughter, the younger your children are, the more likely they are to qualify, because they may not be making like a lot of money as they start out, graduated from high school, they have their first job, graduated from college, they have their first job. They're very likely, if they're not making a lot of money, they're very likely to qualify at younger ages, because they don't have as much income or as much savings. So this is something, you want to make sure they're aware of, your family members are aware of, that don't have property yet. All right, good question. All right, can you use down payment assistance if you want to do a construction loan? Good question. And this is a very, very good question. And let me say this, new construction, like if you're going to D.R. Horton, Meritage, Lennar, all of that, you can typically use new construction. So you can typically use down payment assistance. Let me say that again. If you're going to any of these major builders, typically you can use down payment assistance, the programs that are available in your state. But remember, I said that whole thing about some programs are administered by administered by lenders. So if the new construction, say Lennar has their own mortgage company, they may not be a preferred lender with the down payment assistance program, but no lender can force you to use, no builder can force you to use their lender. So if you're like, okay, Lennar's offering me $7,000 in closing costs, and this program is offering me $40,000. Hey, Lennar, I'm not going to use your lender. I'm going to use this program, and I'm going to get $40,000. So for new construction, you can use down payment assistance. You may, however, not be able to use the preferred lender and the down payment assistance. Now, if you're lucky enough, some of the lenders that are available with the builder are also preferred lenders with that down payment assistance program. You're just gonna have to check to see. Now, and you also can use NACA. NACA you can use with down payment with new construction. I want to say that. What I think you're asking though is for a construction loan. Like you're saying you own this land, right? And that you want to build on that land and get a private builder and all of that. I would say typically, not all the time, the answer is no. So if you want to build on your own land and use down payment assistance, I'm going to say that's a maybe. And you need to check with, I've never seen it happen. I'll say that. I've never heard of it happening. So I'm going to say maybe. It really depends on that program. You should ask. But just general new construction where you don't have to buy the land and hire the builder, because the money comes out differently for construction loans than they do with new construction properties. Like you don't put out any money until the end with, buying from a builder that already has the land and all of that. Okay. Good question, Cindy. All right, question. I live in New York, but want to buy in North Carolina. What state should I apply for the assistance? Very good question. You should apply in North Carolina. And this is for everybody, right? So if you are moving to a new state, typically, and everything I'm saying is typically, you're going to search with the state, because I've given you every program so you can see. Typically, as long as you have employment in the state you're moving to, you will qualify for their state or city program. Remember, they're trying to incentivize people to live in their city or live in their state. So there's usually not, well, you have to live here 2 years before you qualify. If they consider you a resident sometimes as long as you have employment, you're living. So for example, you're going to transfer jobs from New York to North Carolina. Say you're a nurse, so you're going from one hospital to the next hospital. Now you may have to get a check from the new hospital in North Carolina, so they know you've started your employment. You probably can get it started with like your offer letter and all of that, but they want to make sure you actually moved and that sort of thing. So I would say from most programs, as long as you have employment in the state, they will assume that you're living there, you plan to stay, and you would qualify for most of the programs. There's not going to be a set amount of time typically that you have to live there. All right, so we have 260 people. So thank you for joining me. I hope this is coming through on Instagram as well. If you're watching me on Instagram, and you can go on the chat, let me know. I'm going to go, moderator, give me 1 second, okay? Because I'm going to pull up a member's question. So let's let this question get off the screen. And then I'm going to pull up a member question. I don't know if she even has a question. I'm going back. I'll just say healthy script. Thank you for becoming a member. I can't pull you up for whatever reason, but thank you. I see you. I see that you're a member. I don't think you have a question though. All right, so let's pull up the next question, and then give me a thumbs up, like this live stream. Please share this live stream because it's going to be helpful to a lot of people. Like I said, I didn't do down payment assistance myself when I bought, but my sister did. And those of you that is your first time here, I only had a YouTube channel that was focused on Atlanta and Atlanta down payment assistance until I started just doing general content. So I would say 90% of my clients use down payment assistance to buy their first house. All right, Kiana, are there down payment programs? That's a pretty picture. Are there down payment programs for careers such as doctors, I just got accepted into medical school and I really want to buy a duplex. All right, kind of like when I was telling the other young lady that was said her daughter works for the state. If you are doing something that where you're working, like you're at a public hospital or something like that, they probably do have programs specific to you. But if you're truly a doctor, like you said, I don't know if you're still in medical school, so you may not be making as much as a doctor would make. You still have to qualify. So if you're making money, and you have to have income, right? So if you're just in school and you're not working, then you may not qualify because you don't have income yet. But it'll kind of be tricky for you because I'm assuming when you get out of medical school, you'll be making above average for your area. But so you just have to start researching the programs. They definitely have programs for nurses, for doctors, people that work for like state hospitals. But again, that income criteria is still maybe an issue for you as far as qualification. But if you have, before you start making that doctor money, then it's something you probably can take advantage of now. Good question, Kiana. All right, question. I'm a Cobb County employee that's in Georgia. They are currently offering down payment assistance. They have a list of lenders that work with their specific down payment assistance program. Am I still able to apply for 3 lenders? All right, so this is a good question. So what she's saying is, and it's not specific to necessarily, Cobb County, but if there is a county program or a city program that you are applying for and you know that you're going to use that program, then it's not really necessary that you apply to different lenders. And I would say that because, for example, the Georgia program, the interest rate is fixed. So, for example, I looked today, the interest rate for the Georgia Dream program is a fixed interest rate. Not all programs are like this, but the interest rate right now, I think, is a 6.12, for example. It doesn't matter if you have a 640 credit score or 800 credit score, you are going to get that 610 or 612 interest rate. So if you have a program where the interest rate is the same for everybody, the fees are the same for everybody, regardless of what lender you choose, then it's not necessary to get 3 quotes. Now, if you feel like the interest rate is higher with a certain down payment assistance program and you just want to see what you'll get on if you did it on your own, then that's something you should be doing, because what if they're giving you $10,000 but the interest rate is half of a percent higher? Then you wouldn't know that unless you quoted with someone else. All right, so good question. Anything in Orlando, Florida, housing assistance, healthcare? Yes. So go back to that. I'm going to post it here again because I know a lot of new people came on. So give me 1 second. All right, this is the link, everybody. So you go in, you put in Orlando, Florida. Every program that's available to you in Orlando, Florida will be part of that list. Okay, but good question. And so I see a lot of people saying their cities, their counties. I want you to go to that link that I just posted for Sabrina. Sabrina, I love your picture, by the way. Go to that link, and then I want you to look at all of the programs that are available in your city. Okay, that's why some people, if you see in the chat, were putting how much they get in their city. All right, I just put it up there. The website you listed for, it's for Fannie Mae provides that website, but it's all the programs. You don't have to use a Fannie Mae as a conventional loan, but you can still use FHA with those programs. It's just a general list of every program available in that city or state, but it's a Fannie Mae website. All right, D, how often do you see closing costs and down payment assistance problems together? Are home sellers back with helping people with closing costs? Yes. So let me say this. We're getting a little bit more into, and it may change as interest rates go down, but more sellers across the board, unless you're in a very competitive area, are offering closing costs now. And like I said, it really depends on how you work your offer, work with your agent. If the seller has to know that you're using down payment assistance. So they may not know until you close, because those documents both sides sign, but you don't have to necessarily check with your state. laws, but you don't necessarily have to tell them, hey, I'm getting $40,000. And I'm also asking you for $10,000. So just make sure that you understand how that works and what you have to put on your offer and what you don't have to put on your offer if you're using down payment assistance. But there's no problem usually with using down payment assistance and asking for closing costs. But, you have to be cautious because, some areas, some homes and some states are more competitive than others. So you don't want to say, if you're getting enough and you're in a competition with other people for a property, you don't want to probably ask for too much. All right, good question. Lamisha, hey Lamisha, I just heard you mention NACA. So NACA doesn't qualify for these down payment assistance programs, grants to help with out-of-pocket expenses at closing. No, because, okay, here's the thing. NACA is no down payment. It's no closing costs. There's no mortgage insurance. So they're giving you everything. The only thing that people typically use their extra money for with NACA is to buy down their rate. So most programs, not saying all of them, you could double check, but I don't know of anybody necessarily that's used a down payment assistance program and NACA, because when you're doing NACA, you're getting a Bank of America mortgage. So Bank of America funds, or I don't know if funds it, but when you are closing with NACA, you are getting a Bank of America conventional mortgage. So whatever down payment assistance program would have to be, compatible at least with Bank of America, right? So I don't know anybody, and y'all could, maybe somebody's in the chat saying I use both, but you can ask NACA themselves if you're in the program, are there any programs that work with you? Because basically you're using the money to buy down your rate. Now you can try to get the seller to contribute to your closing costs with NACA and use the closing cost assistance to buy down your rate. All right, I'm going to take a quick pause. I answered this question. I'm answered again. Can down payment assistance programs be used when purchasing newly constructed homes? That answer is yes. With major builders, you can use it, but you can't always use their preferred lender if their preferred lender isn't approved to use that down payment assistance program. So you want to be mindful of that. All right, I'm going to share my my master class. So that's about a minute. It's gonna be a minute break. I'm gonna try to make my camera right while you guys are watching this. Keep on putting your questions in the chat. Looking for guidance on the first-time homebuyer process, and are you tired of those first-time homebuyer guides that leave you with more questions than answers? You are not alone. Most of those guides provide basic definitions and explanations because they're afraid to dig deeper, because they don't want to give you too much information, because then you may question what they're doing, your inspector, your agent, your lender. But what if you could become a confident first-time homebuyer armed with knowledge and clarity? Introducing my first-time homebuyer masterclass and confidently closed digital handbook. Join thousands of successful homebuyers who have unlocked the secrets to a seamless home buying journey. My comprehensive resources include a step-by-step masterclass, exclusive confidently closed digital handbook and sample documents, and a bonus new construction mini masterclass and checklist. You're not going to find this organized like I've organized it anywhere else. Our 9-step video masterclass, explainer videos, and 40-page digital handbook will be your trusted companion through the home buying process. Don't let the complexities of home buying overwhelm you. Invest in your education today and make confident decisions from the start. Check my reviews and the thousands of people that I have helped confidently buy their first home. All right, I'm back. All right, thank you. I put the post for the guides at the beginning and at the end. So definitely get it. It's going to save you. I don't know how people back out of deals. They didn't know certain things, or they ask for down payment assistance at the last minute after they go under contract. So hopefully, having this live, that you guys do your research ahead of time, so because a lot of people, they get under contract like, oh, do I qualify for down payment assistance? You need to do that early as possible. I don't know. We're having some technical difficulties. So I'm trying to see. Go ahead. Let's hit the like button. Somebody's reminding me to put that on there. Please hit the like button. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I appreciate it. Let me go back to the comments. All right, I found the new member comment. Hey, have a healthy script. Thank you for joining. All right, this is a good one. What if you want to move to another state but work remotely? Very, very, very good question. Okay, so if you are truly a remote worker, and that means that you can live anywhere. When you are really a remote worker, you could live in Kenya or Japan or Cambodia. There's there's nobody telling you where you can live, unless they say you have to live like in the United States, right? But there are some people that are remote workers, but they expect you to still live in that state. Meaning, if they have a business meeting or something like that, and they want you to come in the office tomorrow, you still have to go there. Now, if you want to move to any state and you're a remote worker and you can prove it, and I say this, I'm trying to be really, really clear on this, because especially during the pandemic, a lot of people were sent to work from home and they tried to move during that time. And then they got into underwriting. So say they were living in Texas and deciding to move to Georgia. And, they told people that, oh, I could work remotely, all of that. And then when their loan went through underwriting called HR to verify that this person could live in Georgia. And HR said, no, they're not a remote worker. They're supposed to be living in this state. And so then their loans got denied at that time. So I'm just saying, a lender will approve you typically if you're a remote worker, and you probably can't also qualify for the down payment assistance program if you're a remote worker, but just make sure you're truly, truly remote and you can live anywhere, because they will verify that. And so just know what program. So you want to ask that up front. That's something with the remote work thing. Don't wait till the last minute. You'll lose your earnest money. You'll lose everything, because they'll cancel you. They'll call maybe like a couple of days, 5 days before closing while you're still in underwriting. And then they will, cancel your they will terminate, or they'll not approve your mortgage. All right. So yeah, please hit like and subscribe. I think we're back on track with the moderator. Okay. I already answered that question. Okay. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to remove this banner. We got people that just put in there. First thing. All right. I'm going to say, moderator, pause for a second, because you're putting up a lot of questions that people already asked. So I'm trying to get back on track. All right. So for everybody that is just joining me, we're at 281. Thank you for joining me. I put in the chat, start at the top, all of the links, a link to my Facebook group, a link to my masterclass. And my masterclass, we are having our negotiation class webinar next Sunday. Sunday the 28th. So if you are in the masterclass, then you will have that negotiation webinar. So make sure if you're planning on getting it, get it before the 28th. So you'll be invited to that. All right. So I'm going back down. Just be patient for a second. New Skincare says, what about retirees? Do they qualify? And I would say yes. So retirees, as long as you have income, right, coming in, you would qualify, but in the same ways that other people would qualify. Your income is based on whatever retirement you're getting, be that a pension or Social Security or disbursements from your retirement accounts. Usually people are getting a certain amount, maybe every month or every year from those accounts. So you can still qualify, but it'll be under the same parameters. You don't necessarily have to be working a job, but you have to meet those income requirements as well. All right, what are the usual income limits for most assistance programs? Like I said, the one in Georgia is $90,000 for households of three. It's $99,000. So very close to $100,000 for households of three or more. So sometimes there are requirements by household, but I would say in general that depending on your state, is usually lower than what the average income is sometimes. But to me, 99,000 is pretty high. So, but 99,000, as long as you have 3 or more people living in your household. So you might be yourself, maybe you have 2 children, it might be yourself, your spouse, and 1 child. If you have 3 or more people, they will qualify you for $99,500. If you have, because the thing is, say you have 2 people and they're both making 70,000, like 2 adults, right? Both making 70,000, you're not going to qualify. Now, if you're living by yourself, I think the amount is about 70,000. So it really goes by the average that they deem, so California, I'm sure the income limit is much higher than it is in Georgia. I'm sure Mississippi, the income limit is much lower, that sort of thing. It goes by what the people are averaging in your state and the cost of living in that state. So good question, but each one will have those requirements. What website can I go on for closing cost assistance in Oklahoma? I just put that in there. So I'll post it one more time. So you put in your state. Let me make sure I put that. Okay. Okay, you said, what website can I go on for closing cost assistance in Oklahoma? I was approved for a VA loan, but was told I still need closing costs. The seller is refusing to pay it. All right, so, and I want to make this distinction as well. For VA loans, there's no down payment. So you could have, say you already have your down payment, but you don't have the closing costs. If the program is offering $12,000 usually, or say $20,000, usually the money will first go to your down payment. And then if there's any extra money, it does go to your closing costs. So when we're talking about down payment assistance, it can still go to your closing costs. So with this young man I don't know if it's a man or a woman, sorry. This MKP, they are using a VA loan, which there's no down payment, but they want help with their closing costs. So he should put in Oklahoma, or he should put in his city and his state and see what programs are available to him, so he can get some of those help with those closing costs. And that he can look through the program to see which ones he qualifies for and see which one will work for him. Because our programs, you can use USDA or VA, and they use that extra money toward the closing costs. Good question. And I would say, while you're on here, you can roll your closing costs into your loan with VA. I don't know if your agent has already suggested that or not. So say that your home that you're buying is $300,000 and the closing costs are $8,000. You can mortgage $308,000 and get that credit back of that $8,000. Now the house does have to appraise for the $308,000, but that might be a workaround for you if you're able to do that. All right, good question. Hey, Melissa. Hey, Shahida, question. Are there programs still available or being used that provide first-time homebuyers with cash offers? I would say no. This was popular during the pandemic because people needed to compete and they couldn't compete with that cash offers. So there were programs that came up that would basically lend you the money, right, to buy it cash. And I don't see those programs being advertised as much as they were during the pandemic. So I would say no to this, but they're probably still out there. I just haven't seen them advertised as much because things aren't as competitive as they were. But there was always a fee for that. So if they gave you the cash, they generally charged you 1% and gave you a little bit extra time for you to finance that house. So good question. Can I use the DASH Act 15K tax credit for first-time homebuyers with NACA? Probably not, but you can check. I'm not sure offhand about the DASH Act or the $15,000 credit. So, and just make sure when you guys are saying different things that they're actually approved, right? And they're not, because it could be specific to your state. It could be specific to like a special program. But a lot of things like the Biden $25,000, people are still talking about that, and it never even got through Congress. So whatever you are thinking about using, then it's really easy. NACA has an official Facebook group. I would just put that in that Facebook group as soon as possible. And if you already have attended a NACA webinar or you have a NACA counselor, you can ask that question. But usually in that the official one, because there's different ones out there, but in the official NACA Facebook group, there are administrators that work for NACA that answer your questions in there. Thank you so much, you guys. What is a website to get the book? Okay, this, I'm putting that there too. And I promise you guys, I did try to star this stuff ahead of time at the top. So if you ever lose track of it, lose track of it in the chat, I've starred some of these things as well. So you can access them hopefully easily. All right, so I think, hi, can you use down payment assistance when purchasing a multifamily home? The answer is maybe. That's another maybe answer. It really depends on the program. I know when you put your information into the website that I gave to you, it will ask you whether you want to do single family or multifamily. So I think, they're kind of trying to take out some programs that are only single family, but the program in Georgia is only single family. So, but you can do a condo, you can do a townhouse, those types of things, not just like a single family home. You can do a condo, townhouse, but when you're doing multifamily, that investor piece is in there as well. And a lot of the programs are trying to, stop people from taking advantage of the program for investment purposes. So sometimes, even though you can get an FHA loan and do multifamily or conventional or VA and get multifamily, a lot of times the down payment assistance program, some of them don't allow it. So that's something to ask the program administrator. And when I'm saying ask the program administrator, a lot of these programs have email addresses where you can email somebody, or you can attend like an open house or a webinar about the program. So, or they have really detailed websites with all the details, but usually at the bottom, they'll have, if you have additional questions, contact this person. So that's what I mean by like contact the administrator for the program that you're interested in. And it's probably easy. It might be in their frequently asked questions because people are asking, but go ahead and just ask the program administrator via email typically, and then just ask them, can you use that program? I am going to try to stay on a little bit longer. Right now it's 7:56 Eastern Standard Time. Because I froze, I'm going to stay on until 8:10. So stay with me. If you're still here, we're at about 304. So this is a very good topic. I might have to do it again, but I will stay on until 8:10. So let's go ahead and get another question up. Thank you, True. My music, and I want to say this, NACA does allow you to get multifamily. So if you're thinking about NACA does allow you to buy multifamily. My music, can I use down payment assistance and purchase a home from a relative that needs repairs? The answer to this is also maybe. It depends on the program that you're using, and it really depends on the program that you're using. Because there's sometimes like FHA loans make it really difficult for you to buy homes from your family members. So you want to do a little bit of, I don't want to get deep into that, but just do some research on that. And sometimes it's difficult for you to get approved with a home that needs repairs. It may not get, like say it's FHA, like the programs are FHA programs, the house has to be safe, sanitary, and what's the other thing? It's like safe, sanitary, and inhabitable, basically. Like it has to have heat and air and a decent roof, just it has to be livable. And if they feel like it's not livable, then it wouldn't pass the FHA inspection appraisal process. So it's a maybe for that one. You may want to look into 203K loans instead and see if you can use any kind of down payment assistance with that. But use the link, check for your state, and then see, how they treat homes that need repairs, because there are some rehabilitation kind of grants that are available. Because if you're maybe in a city that is more dilapidated, they need people to come in and they'll give them the money to fix the home, then there may be special programs for that specifically. So I'm just gonna say maybe for that one, but look for the ones in your city and state and see what's there. All right. Jamaican Black Queen, would DPA help with buying a manufactured home? Probably not. And it all depends. Let me say this. So manufactured homes can move. They're mobile. And so they're treated more like cars. And you have a VIN number. They're not considered real property until they are affixed to the land. And when they're affixed to the land, then they're considered to be real property. So I would say if you're trying to buy a new mobile home, that may not work. I'm not gonna say 100%, of course, check with the program. But if you're trying to buy an existing mobile home that's already affixed to the land, then maybe they may allow you to do that. It's just going to depend on the program. But if you're trying to go to like a showroom and buy a mobile home and put it on your land, then that might not work because they may not consider that as real estate to begin with. But ask, of course, go through the programs in your state and see which one will work. If a lender says that a prospective buyer doesn't qualify on the back end for an assumable VA loan, what might that mean? That means that maybe so when you're assuming a loan, you're taking over the seller's loan for that property. And anybody can assume a VA loan. I would say that you don't have to be a veteran to assume a VA loan, but you have to qualify the same way that the original person qualified. So whatever the requirements, aside from being a veteran, whatever those requirements were, then you still have to meet those requirements. And every lender is different. So with assumable mortgages, the lender is in control of like the requirements for the assumption. So the seller has to ask their lender, what does the buyer need to do to assume this mortgage? And so whatever that information is, you have to meet that. So what I'm assuming, and I'm not a lender, but I have several lenders in my Facebook group. So this is a question you can ask in that Facebook group and lenders will answer you. And that link is at the top. I'm assuming that you don't qualify. I don't know if it's your debt to income ratio. I don't know if it's your credit score, but it sounds to me just in the text that you're giving that you don't qualify for the mortgage. And the lender that is holding the mortgage, they handle whether you qualify or not. All right, good question. All right, I'm gonna take that one. I'm looking at one thing really quickly. All right, banner. Please like and subscribe. All right, we're at about 8:02, so I'm still taking a lot of questions. Right now, we're at about 289, 293. We're going back and forth. But please, when I get off of this live, I want to see at least 200 likes. Okay, definitely, if you want me to do this again, I need to have 200 likes. So, and for those of you that this is your first live, I generally go live about 2 times a month, but on different topics typically. All right, so let me get rid of that. We can put up the next question. All right, Pamela, can you use down payment assistance if you're purchasing a home through a land bank? I live in Chicago. I want to purchase property through. Okay, so land banks and I'm going to just use my understanding. I don't know Chicago's programs and Ohio's programs. I don't know everybody's programs. I can give you this website is new, the one that I'm sharing with you. And Fannie Mae just put it together, but it's all the programs that they know of in each and every state. And you don't have to be using conventional. You can be using VA or FHA, but this is a new website. So I'm going to say that for this, a land bank typically is that the state or the city has purchased land and they sometimes put affordable housing, at least that's the way it works in Atlanta. They put affordable homes on that land and then they allow people to purchase at a reduced price because the city owns the land. And whenever they sell their property, they have to sell it to another person that meets similar income requirements. That's how it kind of works in Atlanta. So if it's the same, I'm going to give you the same answer. The land bank program, because they're trying to make it affordable for everybody. That's why the program is in place. Is usually for affordable housing. So the people that administer the land bank program know what programs work for them. So I would ask them specifically and say, hey, I'm interested in buying a home through the land bank. what down payment assistance programs work with them. And you could, look up the programs that I've given you in that link, and then say, okay, are any of these programs eligible for the land bank? Hopefully I answered that well for you, Pamela. Thank you for the question. What about Habitat for Humanity? Okay, so Habitat for Humanity, and for some people, when you put in your city and state, that might come up for you. The way I see Habitat for Humanity is more of a private program. They may be a nonprofit organization, but they're a private program. So they have their separate application, and then you fill that in, and then they choose, maybe they're only going to choose 10 people, I don't know, 10 people a year, or 50 people a year to meet that, for them to, go through the Habitat program of building them a house and, living in this neighborhood. Because Habitat, they choose an area, they buy the land for that area, and they build all the Habitat homes together. That's the way they do it here. So when I look at Habitat communities, all the homes pretty much look the same. They might be a different color or something like that, but they're because I think for the building process, when they have volunteers build, instead of having them all over the city, a lot of times they're building them all in the same area. Now, this is in the South, we have more land, so it might be different in different parts of the country, but they're usually in communities where everybody is living in the same area. So the reason why I don't want people to put their hopes and dreams in Habitat for Humanity, because they're usually limited, where your other programs are funded, your state programs, they could close 1,000 people or 10,000 people with the funds. But Habitat, they're going to have a set amount of people based on, what they plan on building that year for you to get. And you may get it or you may not get it. But for the most part, with your city and state programs, if you meet the criteria, you would get that money. Hey, Bram Muffin. Hey, question. What is the minimal credit score and down payment that you need to purchase a home? That's going to vary. So I just did a video, Bram Muffin, recently about the 4 mortgage types, and I went over the credit score requirements, and I went over the down payments needed. So let's go with credit score first. For most loans, you have to have at least a 580. But it's going to depend on the lender. So that's probably the lowest that most people go. Any lower than that, they're probably going to ask you to have reserves on hand and money in the bank and a higher interest rate, just more things. If you find some lenders that are going less than that, even with the 580, they may ask you for more. So I would say 580 is the minimum. And then down payment, there are some programs that have zero down payment, like USDA, VA, and then there's some conventional loans, there's no down payment needed. So I would say on average, you're going to look at 3%, 3.5% with conventional and with FHA loans. But again, there's some programs that are available to you that are no down payment. So if in an ideal world, right? So say I've done a video about this, buying a house with no money. You can do a USDA loan and a down payment assistance program and then bring very little to closing. Right? So you just have to see, but the answer is, I would say 580 is the lowest you'll be able to find, but I would advise you to get your credit score up to get a better interest rate. And then for down payment, it's either going to be anywhere between required 0 to 5%. All right. Good question. Right now we're at 8:08. I'm going to do the last 5 questions. So the moderator is going to look through and see which questions I'm going to answer last. I do want to say before I take the last 5, I put every link. So I have the link. It's going to give you, to clear it up, it's a Fannie Mae website, but it gives you all of the programs available in your state, not just conventional. And I have my masterclass hour. Every once in a while, I have webinars for people in the masterclass, and that's going to be the 28th. So I advise you to get it. I also have a free Facebook group. I advise you to join it. So that's going to be my ending part. I'm going to take my last 5 questions. And thank you for joining me. And I hope I have 200 likes. All right. Beverly, when purchasing a home, is it better to use the home builder's lender or your lender? That's such a good question. I'm sure I have a video on it. And this is going to depend. And aside from down payment assistance, it really depends on what the preferred lender is offering you. I would say that the majority of people, I think, use the preferred lender because they're usually offering you not down payment assistance. They're usually offering you closing costs assistance if you use the preferred lender. But by law, the builder cannot make you use any lender. They can't say, if you're buying a house in this community, you got to use Bank of America. That's against the law. But what is not against the law is for them to incentivize you to use their lender. So what they do is they say, if you use our lender, we'll give you $10,000 in closing costs. If you use our lender, we'll buy down your interest rate to 5.5%. They can incentivize you to use their lender. They can't force you to use their lender. That's why you can use down payment assistance with new construction, even if you don't use their lender. However, it might make sense, right, to use their lender because they're offering you closing costs. They're offering you a lower rate. The only way you're going to know that for sure is by doing more than one quote. You can't just quote with the preferred lender and say, okay, I'm just using this, because you never know. Because what the preferred lender could do, not saying they're doing this, but what they could do is say, we're giving them $5,000. The average interest rate is 6%. We're going to charge them 6.75% so we can get our money on the back end. Right? Or we're going to increase the fees or something so we can, make it up. So we'll make it look like we're giving them something, but we'll increase our fees and increase the interest rate. So the only way you're going to really know it, to have a good comparison, is to do an outside quote, right, with another lender. So you can get loan estimates for both. I talk about this in the masterclass. I go over loan estimates with you. You'll get a loan estimate from the preferred lender, a loan estimate from your own lender, and say, okay, which one of these makes the most sense? I would say most people go with the preferred lender. All right. How does it work if you combine USDA and down payment assistance? So I would say, okay, so USDA, for everybody that doesn't know, is no money down. So it's no money down. I have at least 5 USDA videos, or 4 or 5 USDA videos on my channel. So if you're not sure about USDA, it's if you're buying a home in a rural area, I don't know. I'm from the Bronx, so I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well for everyone. But if you're buying a home in a rural area, then you can use a USDA loan 0% down, no down payment. So the way you would use down payment assistance with it is for you to get a program to help you with your closing costs. So you can still say, okay, and some of the programs will say you can use it for FHA, conventional, or USDA. So what you're looking for is, what program can help me with my closing costs? Now, if you're using a lender that does a lot of USDA loans, you can ask them, hey, has anybody else used a down payment assistance program to cover their closing costs? And they may be able to help you first. But if not, go straight to the down payment assistance program and say, hey, I'm going to use USDA. Does this program work with USDA loans? Because I need help with my closing costs. It's the same thing that I was telling the VA viewer from earlier. I was saying basically, I'm sorry. I just saw somebody said I didn't have sound. It's the same thing that I was saying from earlier, that for VA and USDA, they're 100% financing, but a lot of people need help with their closing costs in order to close the deal. All right, good question. All right, this is question number 3, so 2 more. I keep seeing several listings for townhomes. All right, I'm going to take 2 after this. I'm trying to focus as much as possible on down payment assistance. So I want 2 more down payment assistance specific questions after this one, but I will answer this one. All right, I keep seeing several listings for townhomes, and if there are none, we will call it a night. Okay, so I keep seeing several listings for townhomes in this one particular community. Should this be a red flag HOA? All right, so is it a townhome community? I guess, if it's a townhome community, then they're selling their townhomes. All right, so I'm going to try to extrapolate what you're trying to say. Okay, so if there's a community, a townhome community, and you're saying a lot of people have started to sell their townhome, then is that a red flag? I would say maybe. So the thing with townhomes is sometimes it makes them harder to sell. So maybe people are listing, but they're not selling quickly because sometimes they lose their FHA, not availability, their FHA approval. Like that community is no longer FHA approved because maybe there's too many renters in that community, or maybe the financials aren't that strong. Like you have to keep your FHA approval status up for somebody that if they want to buy a house in that community for it to be FHA approved. So sometimes, and you can tell this by looking at the listings, and sometimes buyers can't see the private remarks that your agent can see. So have your agent see if there's any private remarks, but usually agents will put in the private marks, not FHA approved, not an FHA approved community. They'll say things like that. And you will know if there's something that you should be concerned about. But I did a video on condos, and I'm putting condos and townhomes in the same category. You need to get those financials before you make an offer on a townhome or a condo, because you don't have to pay, in most cases, you don't have to pay your association fee with your mortgage. Like they make you pay your insurance with your mortgage, they make you pay your taxes with your mortgage, but typically they don't make you pay your association fee with their mortgage. So when people are hitting hard times or cannot afford it, that's one of the first things they stop paying. They'll stop paying their HOA fees. And sometimes those fees are high. Sometimes they're $500 a month, $800 a month. And if that piles up, then some of the maintenance and things that money is supposed to pay for doesn't get paid. So you want to make sure you're getting those financials from the HOA before you make an offer on any kind of condo or townhome. So the red flag question is a maybe. Maybe it's a red flag. All right. What can down payment assistance cover? It can cover your down payment. And the reason why down payment assistance is so important, there's only 3 sources for down payment, okay? The 3 sources are yourself, so you can contribute to your down payment, your friends or family, and they will verify if somebody's a friend or family member. So they try to do the friend thing to say you're engaged and they're not your family member, but they could, they could contribute to your closing costs. So that's why they put friends and family, but they will verify the family thing. In my Facebook group, there was this guy that was using a friend to contribute to his down payment. And make sure I said that. We're talking about down payment. So, and they did not approve his friend because they make you prove how you know this person. And that person, and you have to look at, they have to give their checking account statements and that sort of thing. And they make you prove how you know them. So their friend did not get approved. So if you're thinking about using a friend or family member for your down payment, make sure that you check with your lender first. Like, how can you prove? I had somebody like in my brokerage where the person had to show the underwriter a yearbook proving that they went to high school together. Like, that's how like crazy it was. So the only people that can contribute to your down payment is you, friends or family, and they will verify it, or a down payment assistance program. Okay. The seller cannot contribute to your down payment. They can only contribute to your closing costs. So that's why these programs kind of fill in the gap for people that don't have friends or family that could, give them some of this money for their down payment. Because there are a lot of people that could, they have grandma and grandpa, mom and dad that have money that they could help them with their down payment. So this kind of fills in the gap. So the answer to your question is down payment assistance can help with 2 things, your down payment and your closing costs. But it typically goes to your down payment first. So say that you're buying a home that's not that expensive and there's $30,000. I'm giving you an example. They say there's $30,000 available in your state and the down payment is like $10,000. But the closing costs are another $5,000. Typically, you can use it to cover both. Okay, but they're not going to give you. That'll be the next question. Well, can you keep the other $15,000? No, probably not. I'm not gonna say 100 across the board, but if there's money left over, they typically, it's not like those student loan checks. Like I used my student loan check to go to Cancun one time, like that. Telling too much of my business. Okay. Like, you get like student loan check and there's like extra money, they give it to you. That doesn't happen with down payment assistance. They will take the money back. So just be mindful of that. What was I saying? All right. That's what it'll cover. Let me just stop talking. All right. One more question. One more question. I think I'm staying on too long. All right. Tarot, we're supposed to get keys on the 24th, which is next Wednesday. We're on the last underwriter. My state taxes got accepted, but my federal didn't for 2023. Will this stop us from buying new construction, or what could we do? All right, so let's talk about this for a second. All right, for everybody that hasn't watched all of my videos, underwriting is when they actually approve you. So you'll be pre-approved, but there's going to be an underwriter that's going to actually verify everything, right? So they're saying they're in underwriting. I would say it says your federal taxes didn't for 2023. I don't understand what that means. So why didn't it get approved? I don't know if because maybe it wasn't enough income or you didn't file your 2023 taxes. But I would say, because I don't know why they didn't, the question I would ask, and you can never typically talk directly to the underwriter. You're probably talking to your loan processor, your lender. You need to find out why they're not accepting it and what you can do. Like, ask very specific questions. Why are you not accepting my 2023 taxes? What can I do to make sure you accept it? Because sometimes the IRS is slow. So if they're waiting for something to come back from the IRS, proof that you paid your taxes, things like that, then, those things can usually be pushed back, and they have like, oh, I'll get them by this time. If there's something, like I've had a buyer who owed the IRS and it came up in underwriting, but she owed them like $300. So each city usually has IRS local offices. So she had to go down to sit and wait and pay her IRS, get the receipt, and then, give the receipt to underwriting. But we were able to close on time. So I don't know if it's that kind of thing or if it's something more complicated. But I would say that my answer is maybe for this too. If you can work out the issue, then it probably will not stop you from closing on the home. If you cannot work out the issue, then it may stop you from buying a home. But I know a lot of things work out in the end, kind of, right? There might be an alternative, there might be something else, but just start asking those questions up front because you don't want to lose your earnest money. I'm gonna do that really quickly. It's my last thing. This is from, if I can find it really quickly. The thing for the earnest money part, I'm gonna do this. And I'm looking at my Confidently Closed handbook. So y'all need to make sure y'all get this. If this gets into a situation where you are not approved for this loan, and I know sometimes earnest money with new construction is really expensive, or you put down a lot of money, go to a lawyer before you agree to let go of your earnest money. Because sometimes a lawyer can work it out. Like if it's significant, if it's like $1,000, maybe you're not going to fight it because the lawyer will cost more than that. But I want to make sure that if this does not work out for you and your family, that you don't give away your earnest money. Like the builder says, well, you terminated, or you weren't approved for your loan, and we're going to keep your earnest money. So just make sure you don't do that. You go to a lawyer ahead of time, and don't sign anything saying you're terminating the contract. So my answer is it could work out, right? A lot of times, lenders and loan processors have had situations like this in the past, and they can kind of advise you what to do. So I've had a lot of things work out kind of at the last minute, or closing might get delayed by a week, but my clients still close. But I just wanted to kind of put that out there. I have a list of things that, you need to do to make sure you kind of keep your earnest money. But I would say for new construction specifically, because the earnest money is kind of high, you want to try to protect that as much as possible. Like a lawyer consult probably is like a couple $100 an hour or so. Is worth it. So I don't want you to lose your money if your loan is eventually maybe not approved. And let me end on this with the taxes. So to get approved for a loan, generally speaking, they do not require your tax returns. Like sometimes they'll ask for them, but they're not required. But when they become required is typically when you're getting down payment assistance. And because how are they verifying what your income is? They're usually verifying if you're over the income limit by your tax returns. So if you are thinking about using down payment assistance programs that have income limits, you need to be prepared to give them your last 2 tax returns and make sure they're filed. Sometimes you can owe, right? You can be on a payment plan sometimes if you owe taxes. But I just wanted to say that because, and I didn't mention that in this down payment assistance live stream, but if you are using down payment assistance, the way they verify that you don't make over that limit is by looking at your tax returns. So you want to make sure you have those tax returns or access to those tax returns. All right. Thank you so much, you guys. I know we had some technical difficulties, but please join me. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe. Like this live stream, watch the replay. There's a lot of good information on it. Thank you so much. Good night.